What's up, guys? In this video, we're going to learn how to make basic shapes in P5js. Then we will use these shapes to draw a robot. Sometimes we know exactly what we're looking for, but sometimes we need to discover. Right now, we are thinking shapes in P5js, but do we know all that's possible? So reference is the first place to go. And in the past videos, we have looked for specific functions like the text function and looked at its parameters and so forth. But when we're thinking shapes now, you may not know exactly what to search for. So let's use these categories here this time. And notice there's one category labeled shapes. And we need basic 2D shapes, which are here in this section. Notice that more than what we need is listed here. We have curves, 3D models, and also ways to create custom shapes. We're going to stick to the basic 2D shapes for this first activity of drawing a robot. Let's explore ellipse. To make an ellipse, we need to write the word ellipse in lowercase, followed by at least 3 arguments to call this function. Notice that the height is optional. X, Y are the coordinates for the center of the ellipse, then comma, width, comma, height. But if we don't put the height, all we can ever get is a circle. Here's a place to demo that is built into the reference. Notice if I provide a different width and height, we get a shape that is slightly elongated in one direction. But if we provide only 3 arguments, we get a circle. So providing 3 arguments for ellipse is the same as providing the same value for the width and the height. So ellipse 56, 46, 70 is the same as ellipse 56, 46, 70, 70. I encourage you guys to look at the syntax for points, lines, and rectangles in this reference as well. I'm just going to give you a quick preview and let you explore more on your own time. For the point, we write lowercase point, then coordinates for the point x, y in parentheses. There are a few patterns to notice here in the reference. One thing that's noticeable is all the shape names start with lowercase letter. Also, the parameters are always x, y, width, height. And notice x and width correspond, and height and the y coordinate correspond. So remembering this pattern, it makes it easy next time you glance, or you don't have to come back to the reference as much. Okay, now let's go ahead and create our robot. I personally find that it's easier to plan on grid paper and then transfer that geometry to code in P5js. And using the edges in the grid makes it easy to read points. Let me show you what I mean. This robot was inspired by a kid's sketch. This is my first try to replicate the sketch on grid, so it looks pretty much the same as the sketch I was given. Then I kind of fine-tuned it in a way to make the points easy to read. Notice the slight modification like the straight edges. and then I put the coordinates for each edge to make my coding life easier. Okay, I've drawn my robot on grid paper that is 600 by 800. So I'm changing my canvas to that. First up, I'm making the antenna. The center of the ellipse is at 300, 40, and the width and the height are 20. Remember that when the width and the height are the same for the ellipse, you don't really need to put a fourth argument. Next is a line going down. Starting at 300, that's the same value, x value as the center of the ellipse. And, since the ellipse had a height of 20, from the middle to the bottom, that's 10 units. So I go provide, for the line, the y coordinate as 50. So it picks up right at the bottom of the ellipse. Okay, next we make the crown and all the other connecting lines. I would say it pays to go in order. It just saves a lot of time. This way, one point is repeated. Notice 270, 70 is repeated again in the next point. Then notice 290, 90 is repeated. Because when you go in order, you always have a middle point that is shared until you reach the end. Okay, I'm gonna quickly enter all of this. Let's execute the code and see what we have so far. I think it's looking good. Let me make the face. That looks good. Since I'm not using curves, I've kind of lost some of the smoothness at the turning points, but I'm trying to stay true to the original sketch that was given to me. The eyes are no longer curves downward. They have an edge, but they still look pretty good. Notice, I'm following a pattern on the eyelashes. So I've got here 260, 270, 280, and 130, 125, 130. Notice here for the other eyelash, I've got 320, 330, 340. I'm incrementing the same way to get the same look. For the smile, I'm going to step away from points, lines, and ellipses, and actually use an arc. This was one among the shapes category, so you might want to head over to reference and check it out. The first 4 arguments for the arc are the same as an ellipse. And then we have angles in radians. I'd say explore reference to see how it works. And I'm going to go over this in more detail in a future video. Originally, I just wanted to use the most basic shapes, but I felt like if I change the smile, the whole sketch is going to start looking something different. So keeping the arc here. Okay, here's our first rectangle for the wing. For the rectangle, you give the coordinates of the top left corner. In this case, 180, 250. And then the width and the height. I'm going to do the same for the other wing. The top left corner for the rectangle is 410, 260. And giving it the same width and height. Alright, we're gonna speed run the rest of the drawing. So far you've seen how to make an ellipse, how to make lines, point, and rectangles. And also a little preview of arc. So that pretty much covers most of it. And okay. Here's the finished product. I'm gonna change the background color to white so that everything is fairly consistent. We haven't really learned colors yet. That's also for a future video. We don't want to throw everything together in a single video. That's just way too much. Flybot is done. You know what I could add to this? I could add the labels that were in the original sketch. And we know how to do the text. So that's something you should keep in mind for your own creation. Alright guys, that's the end of this video. Thank you for watching.